remember, balance your life. I remember going to a PTA meeting, and my daughter's in a play. She's a penguin in a play. She's so excited, and my beeper won't stop going off. So I think it's just important to recognize that life is not a dress rehearsal, and your family has to come first.
And now a word from our sponsor, ETS Solutions.
Hello, this is Jim Beard with ETS Solutions. Thanks for checking out our new podcast series, CIO Insights, where we get a little bit more personal with our guests. We talk about their careers, we talk about their personal interests, and we even ask them to give a little bit of advice to those who are still coming up the ranks. For over 20 years now, ETS has been providing award-winning technology consulting services. Based on our 5 core values of faith, family, community service, client experience, and trust, we're able to offer consulting services to just about every vertical. And our services cover everything from edge computing and cloud services to voice and data to cybersecurity and project management. Whatever your technology needs are, we can help. We invite you to check out the link below or call the number below to find out more about ETS and where we can fit into your technology stack. Enjoy the podcast.
Hey everyone, welcome to the CIO Insights podcast by ETS Solutions. This podcast was intentionally designed to tell stories of technology leaders in a way that gives practical action items for you to take away, whether you're new to the technology industry or whether you've been in it for 20 years. And today we have a special episode for you. Today, my guest is Sallie Wright, who's a former CIO of Fulton County Government and Georgia State University. And she is now an executive counselor for CIOs with Infotech Group. Sallie, how are you today?
I'm great.
Awesome. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, no problem. So I know we're going to have a great conversation and I'm excited. But let's start out by just talking about your path. Like what was your journey to get to where you are today?
So it's a really interesting path that I would not be here today if I hadn't wanted a car at college, because my mother said if you go to this college, you can't have a car, but if you go to this college, you can. Because she was trying to keep me home, closer to home. Number 6, and so she's having withdrawals from children. So I went to this college, and at this college, I went into one program, and it wasn't the right program for me, and I didn't know what computer science was, but I transferred over there, and it changed my whole world. So here I am.
Wow, so it all started with that college decision.
Yep.
So talk to me a little bit about your professional journey once you got into the tech industry.
So I have had an amazing career, and I started by applying for a job at a university, and I just wanted to practice interviewing. And so I go to this interview and I get the job, and which meant my last semester of college, they changed it where I went to work 4 days a week, 10 hours a day, and then I spent the last day at the college making up all my classes. And had a great career in higher education, and then just started diversifying and going into other industries. A lot of people are hesitant to change industries, but Sallie's a big risk taker. And so I've had an opportunity to work all over the country and in all kinds of industries. So ending up with my last practitioner role in government was a real interesting journey in itself. But I've worked in floral industries, consumer products, consumer electronics, mining, the entertainment industry, the floral. I mean, it's just all over the place. So
that's cool. And what are some things that you learned throughout that? Because I know with all these different companies, you also had different teams and you were leading different people and diverse people. So what are some things that you learned about leading diverse teams?
So leading diverse teams is very unique. And I don't know anybody else in my network, which is vast, that's ever had that opportunity to lead diverse teams. Not like me anyway. So my first diverse team was at Northeastern State University, and my team was American Indian. So, being from Oklahoma, lots and lots of American Indian people, and was really interesting to learn, about their culture and how they work, and really super smart folks. So that was the first one. The second time I led a diverse team was at USA Floral Products in Miami, Florida. And that was a group of individuals from really third world countries that were Hispanic. And the Hispanic folks have such a wonderful flair for life. And so I got to learn about their culture. So now wherever I am, I want all kinds of international food. So Atlanta's perfect for me because of that. And then the third team was the team that I had at Fulton County Government, which was primarily African American or Black, because a lot of people were from Nigeria and other countries. And that was really an opportunity to learn even more about culture. And being here in Atlanta is a great place to work because of the diversity. And, it's really made me, first being a female in a male-dominated industry and not really letting that slow me down. I never even thought about it,
Really?
No.
Wow.
Typically the only female at the table, especially in the earlier years. You had to learn how to drink coffee, which was not my favorite thing, but I did. And, just, you always felt like you had to be better than them, though. So my eldest sister told me once, Sally, it's okay to be average, because I always strive not to be average, and you have to be as a female executive.
Yeah, I can imagine. Is there like a key takeaway that you learned from just the collective of experiences that you could share?
I think the key takeaway is to try to always be inclusive and to make sure everybody has the opportunity to grow and learn. And I think the biggest thing that's happened with my career is that I have helped a lot of people with their careers, and being open and willing to mentor and help people grow, and not just somebody who looks just like you. I do lots of mentoring for like Georgia State's graduate program and Emory and just all over the place. I have people walk up at conferences and say, would you mentor me? And before this last position, I would say yes, but now I mentor and I coach CIOs and CISOs across the United States. So can't really give a freebie if you're not a student.
As your time is way more valuable now.
Yeah, it's kind of a conflict of interest.
That's funny. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about resources. What have been the best resources for you throughout your career?
So I think who I am makes me very successful in that I'm a learner. I don't know if you've ever taken the Strength Finders 2, read that book and taken that test, but I'm a learner. So I'm constantly learning and staying up to date with what's going on. And I think that has been a key attribute. The other thing is making sure that you build your network and spend a lot of time with people that are from the industry and talk with them about what's going on in their organizations, and just learn from each other. And then constantly read, just constantly.
Constantly read?
Read, yes.
That's interesting. So it's funny, I did a panel for Inspired EDU, I think earlier this week, and I shared 3 personality traits that I think you need to have in order to thrive in the technology industry. So I'm going to share my 3, and I want you to share your 3. Okay, so my 3 were willingness to learn, a positive mindset, and excellent work ethic.
I think we have the same ones. Work ethic is really, really, really important. Growing up as number 6 in a poor family, you really had to have a good work ethic. I mean, I've been working forever. One of my sisters was saying how she thought that I'm the youngest, and then the next sister up were like 2 separate families, because there's so many years between the 4th and the 5th one.
Yeah.
And so she said, well, mother worked while you were growing up, not when we did. And so you just had everything given to you. And I'm like, are you out of your mind? Yeah, I was a cheerleader. I paid for those uniforms. I paid
Wow.
for cheerleading camp. I paid for everything.
Wow.
So yeah, ours are about the same, I would say, as far as the top three things: being willing to learn, being positive, always looking at what the opportunities are, recognizing what's good and what needs to be tweaked is always important. So continually improving would probably be my fourth one.
Gotcha. And so through the years of working, you see you've been working forever. I know it must feel good to, receive not even validation, but just to be celebrated for your achievements. And I know in 2018, you were a Georgia CIO of the Year Orby Awards finalist.
I was.
So how did that feel, just to feel it?
So that was the fourth year I'd been nominated.
Oh, wow.
And so after 4 years, making the top 5 was really important. I think that I should have won.
I think you should have won too.
I think I should have won. But, maybe the following year, if I'd stayed as a practitioner, I would have won. But it was an honor to be included with a group of such prestigious peers. And so I loved it. I loved it. So
that's awesome. And what do you feel is one thing you wish you would have known at the beginning of your career?
To balance your life.
Let's talk about that.
So you got this fabulous work ethic going, and you work 80-hour week or a 60-hour week or a 70-hour week, and you're not really balanced. You make work who you are. And so if you lose your title of director or VP, then you don't know who you are anymore. So I would have hoped, and I would hope that you guys will remember, balance your life. I remember going to a PTA meeting, and my daughter's in a play. She's a penguin in a play. She's so excited, and my beeper won't stop going off. So I think it's just important to recognize that life is not a dress rehearsal, and your family has to come first. Now, that doesn't mean blow off work for your family, but it means to put some box around it. There are times when you have to work more hours than normal, but don't make it consistent all the time, because the kids are going to grow up, and you want them to have memories of you coming to their events and being part of their lives. At one point, I was implementing SAP for a Fortune 100 company, and I never saw the children. I had a house husband, so they were taken care of, but I would work these horrible weeks. And then on the weekend, I would give all my time to the kids, and I would cook all their food for the week. Otherwise, my ex-husband would have taken them to McDonald's or somewhere. And I'd say balance your life.
I think that's so important at different levels, right? Because even, beginning in your career, like for myself, I'm in the technology industry, but I have so many passions that are in line with technology. So what is like some practical advice that you can give to someone who is having trouble balancing, whether they're a CIO or whether they're a coordinator? Right?
So get somebody to mentor you on that, or get a coach. One of the things that I offer to the people that I work with is we talk about how many hours are you working, and we talk about, are you delegating? And we go through the calendar and we look and see where they're spending their time and go, do you really need to be in that meeting, or can you get somebody to go for you? Because it's an opportunity for the other people to grow. If you can let them go. I would say balancing your life became very apparent for me when I got nominated for Hall of Fame for this little tiny town I'm from.
Wow.
Population 2,600, Okemah, Oklahoma. And I was filling out their paperwork, and it wants to know your accomplishments. And then it gets to that part of what have you given back? Well, all I'd done is given my life to the job. So I was not doing anything to give back. And hence now you have Sallie that gives back constantly. So I do the job, but I also am on boards and I mentor kids and try to help people.
Yeah. And what do you receive from that, from the giving part?
I love that. If one of my kids, and they're grown, but I call them the kids, if they excel and they become who they're supposed to be, and I've made a difference, that's the best part. It really is. You can say, Sallie, what's your major accomplishment? And I can say, oh, implementing SAP, or I can say something around technology, but that's not the best part of me. The best part of me is helping other people with their careers.
Wow. That's so good. And what is a common piece of knowledge that you give the students that you work with that seems to be universal for them all?
Start your network now. Network. Get active in the technology community. We're so fortunate here in Atlanta that we have such a robust technology community. And everybody, I'm not the only one that will help you. There are people throughout those organizations that will help. TAG is good. ATP is wonderful. So, join some of those organizations, get to know the people, and spend time talking to them, because if you know them and you need a job, it's not what you know, it's who you know. Now you have to be good too, but knowing somebody really gives you an edge when you're looking for your next chapter.
Yeah, interesting. And on that note, I want to ask you a question that I'm just personally curious about when it comes to networking. I think going up to a person and just saying hi, having a conversation, that's the first step. But how do you build like longevity within relationships?
So I think the key is to be interesting.
Be interesting.
To be interesting. And being interesting means keeping up with what's going on, listening to the news, don't politics or things like that. Stay away from that. But knowing what the next technology is, or asking them about them. What's your favorite thing you did this week?
I love that. Yeah. Okay. And on that note of technology, what technology is like really exciting to you?
Wearables.
Okay. Like Apple Watches, Fitbits, or? So
the last grant that I worked on at the University of North Carolina in Chapel Hill was wearable technology for firefighters. Okay. So technology that would tell the firefighter when there's no more oxygen, or it's getting ready to be no more oxygen in the building, how to get out, and what's the best way to get out. I think wearable technology is the future. I mean, right now, this just tells me, stand up, tells me to breathe, tells me if I'm getting enough exercise. It yells at me. But it can go further than that, and it could tell you, hey, you're getting ready to have a heart attack, head to the ER. Or it could tell you something bad's happening in the area. So it's kind of cool. Yeah. And last night I was talking to my nephew, and all of a sudden it started talking to him, and he said, "Shut up, Surrey."
That's funny. Siri's like a whole person now.
Yeah.
Right? In people's families. That's crazy.
My brother just got his first iPhone, and he's 83. And he says, he calls me, and if he hears this, he'll kill me. But I make fun of his accent, because when you live in Oklahoma, you have an Oklahoma accent. He says, "Well, sis, I just got an iPhone. Can you tell me how to use it?" I said, "Well, you say, hey, Surrey, tell me how to do this." Anyway, it's hilarious, but he's so excited. He's wanted one for a long time, and the wife said no. And they've been married for, 61 years? Wow. So she can say no.
Wow, so his whole life is about to change.
Yeah. Well, they've learned how to take pictures, so yeah, they're in heaven now. So.
No, that's so good. So let's talk about your failures. That's a big topic. What I'm gonna tell you why first, because I think that you can learn from people's failures. And there's a quote that I love. It's an ancient proverb, and it says, "Smart people learn from their own mistakes. Wise people learn from the mistakes of others, and foolish people never learn."
So I think one of my biggest failures was helping somebody who was just looking to hurt me.
Mm.
And I think that was the biggest failure from a personal perspective. Someone who had the most amazing communication skills, who could sell you anything, but was really just a poser
Mm.
and couldn't deliver anything, but really could talk a good game. And I learned from that. I learned to listen more when people are telling me about themselves. Because there are people that are evil, that are just
Yeah.
bad people. So
That's real.
try to not hang out with them.
Yeah. So you think the biggest lesson from that was to listen more?
I think
say?
listen more and be more aware, and probably ask around a bit, before you hire somebody. Well, so what do you think about Christians?
Yeah, that's funny. So I like that. I want to talk more about that, just being a leader. What are some things that you've learned from being a leader of the team, about people?
There are people in the world who are very competitive, and I worked on teams where everybody at the table was an A-type personality, and so we're stomping on each other trying to climb the ladder. Try to hire people that aren't like that, that the only way that they can become successful is by making other people look bad. Try to steer clear of that. And usually they will have telltale signs of,
Interesting. And then, okay, so I want to ask you one more question before we get into the Fab Five round.
Okay.
I want to ask you about working with universities. You have what's the best story or the most memorable story about working in the education world?
Oh, I love education. It is, it's optimal. I mean, you get to work in an environment where there are students and you can hire them, and you can, if they work for me like just one semester and they get to know me just a little bit, I can recommend them. Makes a difference in their career. It makes a difference in mine. I think education, there are no boundaries. I mean, it's like, what's cool and what do we need to do next? I mean, at University of North Carolina in Chapel Hill, they built rooms that were idea rooms, like a social room that was floor to ceiling projectors, and you could project anything you wanted on the walls all the way around. Now imagine taking that to a class and saying, well, what would you put up there? If it's a music class, it might be different kinds of music or instruments, or it could be this is playing that and this is playing that. Or if it's a medical, it could be, well, here's the guy's chart and here's what his liver looks like. And here's, those kind of things. So you see the whole picture. And then they were really big into visualization walls. So they would layer data of different kinds in a geospatial way. So an example might be, here's the city of Charlotte, North Carolina, and here's a pandemic, or maybe even it's a hurricane is coming through and there's a pandemic, and how that impact is going to hit. Yeah, really cool stuff. So you get that kind of stuff in higher ed.
That's beautiful. I love that. And I can feel your passion.
I love it. I do love it. I love Georgia State. It's just absolutely amazing. So working there was a privilege, and getting to see how Georgia State was able to turn around graduation rates by getting to know the students. At the time I was there, 60% of the kids were from impoverished homes, where if they needed money or they were going to have to drop out and lose their scholarship from the state, we set up a system to give them the $200 they needed because their family couldn't give it to them. So graduation rates just really went sky high. Georgia State graduates more African Americans than anywhere else, like in the world.
Wow.
So it's a
That's
great
cool.
school. It's very diverse.
Yeah.
Anyway,
You can go on and on. No, it's fine. It's fine. So now we're going to get into our Fab Five round. But before we do that, I want to remind you guys that this podcast is sponsored by ETS Solutions. And ETS Solutions is a faith-based technology consulting company that specializes in multi-location implementations to guarantee that companies either increase revenue, increase productivity, or decrease overall costs. So to learn more about ETS Solutions, visit etssolutions.com. And now, Sallie, are you ready for our Fab Five?
I only read the first one.
Perfect. So you know it's coming. Question number 1: if you could have one superpower, what would it be and why?
So I asked my daughter to tell me the answer to this question.
Okay.
And she said teleporting would be what I would want. I'm not sure if that's true or not, but it sounds good.
Yeah, and it's funny. Tom said time travel, so it's kind of teleporting, time travel, not kind of, but is that the way you meant it, or you mean just?
Well, she would be able to go anywhere she wanted, anytime she wanted. So
gotcha.
she liked to come home and see me, but she's got these small windows of that availability because of working and going to school.
Gotcha. Okay.
But that's what she said, so I'm going with that.
Going with teleporting. Love it. What is one thing that not many people know about you?
I'm a first generation college graduate for my family. Yes.
Wow.
So after I went and I got promoted really big, really fast, then my sister's husband said, maybe you should go back to school. So she went back and she became like a computer person too, technology person. Cool. Then my next sister got her professional degrees and is a dentist. And so I set the trend.
I love it. Love it. Question number 3, you could have dinner with, let's say, one person, either dead or alive. Who would that be and why?
It would probably be my mother.
Why?
I haven't seen her in a long time.
Well, okay. And next question, what is your favorite word?
Perhaps.
Why?
Perhaps is a word that helps you to transfer what you think into someone else where they think that it's their idea.
Can you say it one more time?
Perhaps is a word that helps you transfer an idea to someone else and then it becomes their idea. So perhaps you would consider XYZ.
Yeah.
And then now XYZ is your idea, not mine.
Wow.
Because you considered it, right?
Love that. Okay, next question, last question. What's one thing that you wish you would have known at the beginning of your career?
I wish that I would have known about networking and mentoring. I wish I mean, when I do have a mentor, he's like 95 years old, because he taught me back in the day. And until recently, he used to call me and say, what kind of computer do I buy next? And I'm like, dude, I don't do that work anymore. But anyway, but I wish I'd had that throughout my career, someone that you could talk to that could tell you and be honest with you if you're going the wrong way, or if you need to consider other things. So, and build the network.
Yeah.
Can't stress build the network any more than that. That's probably those are the most important.
Yeah, I love that. And I said that was the last question, but I have one more because I think my female friends will be mad at me if I don't ask you this.
Okay.
So what is some advice that you would give to a woman in the technology industry who has dreams of being a CIO?
Well, first, don't date anybody where you work. Ever. I say don't poo-poo where you eat. Other people say it a different way, but don't date people where you work. I would say dress very conservatively. I would say dress just a little bit better than everybody else. I would say don't think that because your work is superior to everybody else's, that's going to get you promoted, because the guys are doing an average job and then they spend the rest of the time networking. And that networking is how you get promoted. There's a great book out by Marshall Goldsmith and Sally Helgeson called How Women Rise. And it talks about the 12 habits that women have that prevent them from getting promoted. It's also good for men that are introverts, which a lot of IT people, men are introverts. And it explains what you should be changing about how you operate. Because most women think that if they just excel and do a phenomenal job, that their work will be recognized. And that's not how it works. There's another book called, it's by Harvard Business School. It's Why Are So Many Incompetent Men in Leadership? That's the name. And that's a great question. But I know that if you and I are asked the same question, you're going to get a lot different response than I am because of the gender thing. So.
Wow, that's good. I'm glad I remembered to ask that, because I think that's very valuable. So Sallie, thank you so much for being my guest today. And thank you all for watching the CIO Insights podcast by ETS Solutions. See you all on the next episode.